Today's talk is on minimalism. You also might see minimalism labeled primary structure or ABC art. So you'll notice that all of these titles, right, have something that sort of conjured up in your brain. Minimalism, this idea of something being minimal, that there's not much to it, right? There's not a lot of overt detail or a lot of decoration, may we say. Primary structure, it's the basics, right? ABC art, the idea that even a kid could do it, maybe like ABC. So you'll notice that the basics are kind of wrapped up, right, in the name, right, of this movement. Minimalism is going to be very influenced by Clement Greenberg. Now, if you remember, we talked about Clement Greenberg in relationship to abstract expressionism. We had spoken about how Jackson Pollock, especially, had looked to Greenberg's theories on painting, or the idea of what a medium needs, right? So Greenberg had said that a medium, such as painting, right, or sculpture, right, should only use what the medium allows, right? It should only use what the medium has as its basic, right, components. That subject matter isn't important, right? It's what the medium allows. So you'll notice that if we think about sculpture, sculpture is about form and materials. So you're looking here at a minimalist sculpture, and you'll notice that the subject is, we don't really know what the subject is, but that's beyond the point for someone who follows Clement Greenberg, because they'd say, the sculpture is doing what the sculpture knows how to do. It knows how to be a form, and it knows how to use materials, right? It's form and materials, basically. And it doesn't have to be, right, a subject. But let's face it, the traditional role of sculpture is this. So when people think of sculpture, this is what they think of. They think of the David, right? They think of Michelangelo, right, sculpting something out of marble, right, and making it look like a lifelike man. They think about, Grenough's George Washington. So they think about traditional sculpture in a certain kind of way. And I think minimalism is breaking, right, that connection, right, to the idea of traditional sculpture. It also really challenges how you interact with sculpture. And here I'll point you to Michael Fried, right, a famous theorist writing about what he called theatricality in art. He talked about how minimalism is really about this theatrical use of the body, right, to interact with the mass and the form. And that minimalism really forces you to, sort of deal with it in a completely different way than traditional sculpture would have. Traditional sculpture, you kind of stand and look at it. And he was like, minimalism invites you to interact with it. It invites you to climb on it and walk on it. And this is very unusual when you think about art. I worked at the Corcoran Museum of Art in DC when I was doing my undergrad, so I was interning there, and we had a very large minimalist sculpture outside, and I used to sit on it and kind of eat my lunch and watch DC go by. And depending on the guard that day, the guard would often come up to me and say, "You need to get off the sculpture." And as an art historian in training, right, I would say back to him, "No, no, it's minimalism. Like I'm allowed to interact with it. The whole purpose of these is to be accessible to people." And he'd be like, "Get off the sculpture," right? So, Freed, he's saying that you should do things to these sculpture that were intrinsically kind of acculturated, right, or trained to not do, right? We're told not to touch the artwork, right? Not to climb on the artwork, right? I'm showing you a picture here of my study abroad students. One year I did study abroad for TCC. After I figured out how much work it was, I was like, never again. Dragging like 28 students around Europe for 3 weeks is a lot of work. These are my lovely study abroad students, many of whom I'm very close with still. And I remember taking them to the Pompidou Center in Paris. And the Pompidou has a large minimalist room or rooms. You'll see a lot of pictures from the Pompidou throughout our discussion. And I remember taking them into this room and was thinking in my head, I'm going to have some fun with them. And so they're walking in, they're looking at the different types of minimalism. You'll notice actually some minimalist painting in the background, right? So just white canvases, right? But you'll also notice there's a minimalist sculpture on the floor. This is a Carl Andre piece. And Andre was known for doing these floor works, as we call them. They were made up of metal squares. So if you look closely, you'll see there's sort of these little metal squares, right, placed together. And so I watched my students walk into this room and they sort of parted like the Red Sea, right, around the sculpture because they've been told their whole life, don't touch sculpture, right? Don't touch art in general. And so then I sort of waited for them to be in the room for a while, and then I just sort of boldly walked in and walked across the sculpture, and those who were watching were like, "Oh my god, like, you have to get off the oh my god, what's she doing?" Right? And they were waiting for the museum guard to say something to me, right, And then I just sort of stopped in the middle of the piece and looked around, and I said, "Let's have a discussion about minimalist art." And then I told them about, these pieces and their theatricality and how they wish for viewer interaction. And of course, once we were done with this talk, guess what they wanted? A nice big group photo, right? Hanging out on the artwork because, to them this was a cool thing, to understand that art allowed them to interact with it and have some fun with it. So, minimalism really opens up some opportunities that you don't see with other types of sculpture making. And they loved the white on white canvases. Not really, right? They were like, these are sort of bullshit. And I was like, okay, you cannot like them, but you need to know why they exist, right? And they loved this photo. They thought it was funny. Minimalism, by its very nature, it challenges what galleries and museums and collectors do. This is my lovely husband when we went to the Pompidou on one of our trips to Paris, one of our favorite cities. And he's not an art person. He's a computer programmer, so he learns a lot about art from me, and some of it he likes, and some of it he doesn't like. And he's always kind of my uh, real person on the street reaction to art, right? He's the one who kind of comes from this perspective outside of art and says to me, like, what the heck are these people doing, right? So I remember coming with him to the Pompidou and us walking around, right, and looking at a lot of these works. And a lot of it, he was like, what is this stuff? I could have made this stuff. And I had to remind him that, idea over object, it's not about you could do it. It's about minimalists were thinking about how to pare down sculpture to form, mass, right? No subject, right? Just the idea of what the medium can do. And if you think about it, so this challenges museums and collectors as well. How do you show this stuff? How do you explain this stuff? You'll notice most of it's fairly large scale. So, you have to have a very large space to show it. So it's very challenging, I think, to museums, to collectors, to viewers, um, in a lot of different ways. And one of the other things I really want you to think about with minimalism is that it uses a lot of industrial and unusual materials too that you haven't seen in art making before this point in the end of the 60s and into the 70s, right, when minimalism starts to emerge. Now, industrial materials, what do I mean by that? I mean things like iron and steel. These are materials usually used for architecture, right? Making automobiles, right? It wasn't, those aren't materials that we think of art worthy, right? If you think of materials for sculpture, it's usually bronze if you're using a metal, right? Or it's marble, right? So these industrial materials, like you see with the X piece, which is actually in the Corcoran Gallery where I used to work. So I love showing you this piece. Um, and if you think about industrial materials, the artist kind of comes up with the idea of what they want to do, and then they have to hire people typically who know how to work with these materials. My dad was a steel worker, right? An electrician, but he worked in a steel plant. So he understood like how to be an electrician, but also how to work with steel. These are usually considered more blue collar skills, which my father was. So a lot of these artists have to go find these kind of more blue collar people, these industrial workers, might we say, and bring them into the mix to execute these larger scale pieces that they're thinking about. So it's an interesting marriage of the idea being translated to a crew of people who are usually sort of day laborers, people who are your support crew, but you can't have the piece realized without them, right? So to me, this is sort of an updated idea of like the workshop mentality of the medieval or the Renaissance, right? You have like a prominent artists, right? But they usually have a workshop of people working under them who do all the boring stuff for them. Even go look at like Leonardo, Michelangelo. They had people who did like the boring stuff for them, the backgrounds, things like that. So it's sort of a revival of that kind of thinking, right? Of having the idea and being the artist, let's say the named artist, but having to have these people who help you execute. And then unusual materials, you're looking at an Ava Hesse piece on the right, and it uses fiberglass, which now we know, of course, is toxic. And really, you should not use this for art making. But you'll notice it creates this kind of biomorphic, almost like worm-like, creepy looking, sort of imagery. So again, you see a lot of strange materials, industrial materials. And the final thing I'd like to say about minimalism is that it because it has no subject, it tends to stress what I call serialization or repetition of a theme. That if you're gonna make, let's say, boxes, these are Donald Judd boxes that you're seeing here. If you're gonna make boxes, out of steel, where do you go from there? So what they would do is kind of keep repeating a theme and then changing slightly the theme as they moved along, taking off a side, let's say, or adding like a circle, breaking through the mass, right, to sort of break up the idea of the form. But this idea of repeating something that you'll notice is like a primary structure. I'm making air quotes right now. Primary structure, right? This idea of repeating something and sort of working through the idea of these forms and these masses, I think is something to keep your eye on when you study minimalism.